Sometimes, oftentimes with SVTs, amps can be frustrating. This morning I went and got a new good sorted for low noise and microphonics 12AU7 from my buddies at Tube Depot. Thanks again, Michelle. And I popped that in the second SVT for this touring act that's leaving town today, that's finishing up rehearsals later this afternoon. And that amp sounded great, and I was bringing it, literally driving it to the studio where the rehearsals are happening, when the tech called and said, hey, the amp, which I had worked on yesterday, the first one featured in last night's video, had sounded great all day yesterday for rehearsals, and about 3 hours into rehearsals today, it started making a random tick. And at first I thought that was going to be the same problem that the amp was exhibiting when I first got it in, that you saw in the video yesterday. But anyway, I dropped off the second SVT and got the first SVT back. Had to wait till there was a break in the rehearsal so we could swap amps. You don't interrupt a performance to say, I'll just be taking that, please. Anyway, I got it home and I opened it up, and I had a little more time today to do a deep dive. So SVTs being what they are, I pulled the output tubes and pulled the output tube board out and looked at it, and I found two connections, one grid, one screen, that while they measured okay with an ohm meter, there was 0 ohms resistance. The traces just didn't look good to me, and there's the resistance that the current of a meter finds, and there's what happens when you actually play an amp that has high voltages with some more substantial currents. So those two connections I reinforced with some wire where I did not trust the traces, and I put all that back together, and then there was a ticking that came and went, and it was present regardless of the front panel settings, and if I went into the power amp in, it was still there. It would change the level if I did that, but that's it. And I traced it to this shielded run. Let me get my pointer. This shielded run right here that a previous tech had put in, and I hadn't done anything to this solder joint because it looked okay yesterday to me. But underneath the solder, which looked good, the ends of this wire were just splayed out and bird's nested, and I really don't think it was really soldered. I think it was resting within a pool of solder. So I removed all the solder and tinned it and reflowed that, and lo and behold, all the ticking has gone away. And in fact, I could press on that joint right here and make the ticking happen. So I'm very confident that this is the cause and that it is fixed. But I've got about another hour before I really need to start buttoning this thing back up. So I am taking the time just to play it and listen and see if I've missed anything, because this is the last opportunity to do this when it's not under a tour pressure schedule where things have to be done and up and running. So, you know, from one perspective, I'm just sitting here listening to my neighbor mow the lawn and playing a little bass and somehow magically getting paid for it. But I actually am doing valuable work to make sure I've not missed anything before it goes out. It's something that I missed yesterday, but I was trying to do 6 amps yesterday, and it seemed fixed, and it lasted without any issue through 6 hours of rehearsals after that. So, you know, that's pretty good. Normally, and I explained this to the tech, normally on any amp where I did major service, especially a valuable amp like this, it would get at least 12 hours of testing, and an amp that was going to go on a world tour, I would give about 24 hours of testing. That was not a luxury that time was not a luxury that we could spend here. So fingers crossed that this is the last of it. And until then, I'll just sit around and play random bass parts that have, you know, just whatever occurs to me out of the blue. Just random bass parts.